Hello and good morning. Today is Friday, November 13th, Spooky Friday. This is week 6, and this is ES1 fall quarter for 2020. Who can forget it's 2020? Wow. So what I want to do today is just to start off by taking stock of where we're at in the quarter. So again, I want to thank those of you who continue to email me thanking me and the TAs for slacking or kind of pulling back a little bit, not slacking off, but pulling back a little bit over the previous couple of weeks by providing you with the election week off. I hope that your transition back into work this past week has been smooth. And now we're really over the hump. We're headed into the last several weeks of the quarter. And so here's what's coming up. So you have your assignment this week that you're working on. Next week, you have assignment number 6, even though it's week 7, because we skipped an assignment. Then the following week, so not next week, but the week after, is Thanksgiving week. During Thanksgiving week, you have no assignments, you have no discussion sections, you have no weekly video, you have nothing. It's just a week off, and so I hope you enjoy that. One thing that I do want to say about Thanksgiving week, though, is that although our COVID numbers had been trending downward for quite a while, to pretty low levels in California and in Santa Barbara County in particular. Now we're seeing a spike that was long predicted by public health officials in the fall. And so the vast majority of states in the United States are now in the red or purple categories, indicating widespread or uncontrolled spread of COVID-19. And so this is not something to be afraid of, but it's something to be very conscious of and cognizant about. And so if you're going to be doing any traveling or mixing with other people over Thanksgiving, please take every possible precaution to do so. You know why you need to do that. And I really want to encourage you to be as safe and healthy as possible over that Thanksgiving week when you do have off from ES1. After Thanksgiving week, we'll come back for week 9 and we'll have our final assignment of the quarter. I actually haven't written the final assignment yet, but I've been thinking a lot about it. And I want to focus the final assignment on action, on what we can do as individuals and collectively to confront some of the really pressing challenges, some of the large-scale things that we've been talking about this quarter. And so I'm thinking about how to design an assignment like that, and that'll be getting up online in the coming week or so. And so you can definitely look for that, and this will also be an opportunity for you to sort of reflect on some of the things that we've talked about this quarter and perhaps connect the dots. During week 10, there will be no new assignment. Instead, any student who has missed an assignment over the course of the quarter or who received a U, an unsatisfactory for any assignment, will be able to make up one assignment during week 10. I'll give you a little bit more details about how that's going to happen over the next couple weeks, but that's something you should be aware of. And if you did receive an unsatisfactory or you were unable to turn in an assignment, let's say because of a family emergency or something like that, you have an opportunity to do the makeup during week 10. And so I really want to give everyone this quarter an opportunity to succeed in this class. And so I encourage you that if you do have a makeup to do, to take the opportunity of week 10 to do that. Now, if you have any questions about that, you can feel free to come to see me during my office hours, or of course your TA. And I just do want to remind you that the TAs do all the grading and assign the grades as well. I just check them off. And so the TA is really your point of contact for those sorts of issues. The next thing I want to say is I want to talk a little bit about, just a little bit about assignment number 6. So that's the assignment that you have coming up next week. Assignment number 5 focused on disasters. As you know. Assignment number 6 focuses on environmental justice and inequality. These can be tricky concepts sometimes, and so what I've done is I've provided you, in the absence of a venue for face-to-face, in-person discussions like we normally have in this class during normal quarters, I provided you with a reference article that you can use to help make your way through the rest of the activities for next week. And so if you look at assignment number 6, you'll see that 6A says skim and use for reference, the long article Environmental Justice. This is a piece that was published as a review article of current literature in the field of environmental justice several years ago by a team of authors that includes, as one of the co-authors, David Pello, who is the chair of the Environmental Studies program here at UCSB. Some of you may have encountered David before or may have an opportunity to do that again in the future. Regardless, the point here is that this article provides you with an overview of the field of environmental justice, such as it existed at the moment when the article was published, and gives you a pretty clear explanation of a series of concepts that you can use to help you understand and connect the dots between the other activities, 6B, C, D, and E, for the rest of the week. So the other activities look at a variety of different issues. They look at environmental justice as it's related to climate change, to pollution, to civil rights broadly, to social movements, and also to issues of land use and conservation as they pertain to diverse economic interests and political interests, including those of indigenous peoples, of First Nation groups in our country. And so there are really a few terms that I want you to be kind of aware of, and I just want to highlight these. And you can kind of think a little bit more about these as you read and skim that initial piece for this week. So one of these is environmental inequality, one is environmental justice, and then another term is intersectionality. And so I'll just very briefly define those here, but you should really refer to that activity 6A this week that I provided you with as a reference. Environmental inequality simply refers to unequal access to or exposure to environmental goods or bads. What do I mean by environmental goods or bads? I mean, an environmental good could be something like clean air or clean water or access to open space, or even something like public transportation. Environmental bad could be something like pollution, for example, or exposure to risks associated with storms that could increase in intensity or severity or regularity due to climate change. And so that's inequality, right? There's a lot more to say about that. The articles this week, the podcast this week will really bring that out in full color. Environmental justice is a little bit different. It relates to environmental inequality, but it refers to issues of justice that involve really largely the law, right, and people's access to means of remediating or ameliorating inequalities and injustices in the environment. And so an example of environmental justice issue would be an unequal exposure to a certain kind of risk, like pollution, carcinogenic chemicals, for example. And then the environmental justice question pertaining to that is, how do you address that? How do you address that as a society? How do our institutions like legislatures and the courts and hospitals and research organizations and educational institutions address these issues? And so the issue of inequality really has to do with what is existing out there in the world, unequal access to environmental goods and bads or exposure to them. And then justice really refers to people's ability to ameliorate or to fix these problems through participation or power to make change within a political process. Again, these terms are defined at some length and with significant examples, both in activity 6A and also in the other activities for the week. The final term I just want to make note of is intersectionality. So intersectionality refers to the fact that for any given issue that people experience as individuals, we can't simply categorize folks into one simple sort of block or category, right? People experience environmental goods and bads, for example, based on a wide variety of traits or affinities or experiences that they may have had. And so when you think about intersectionality, you might think about issues like race, certainly. But you might also think about issues like class and gender, nationality, citizenship, language, all of these things that shape who a person is and what their experience is in the world. When it comes to issues of environmental justice and inequality, different kinds of issues, different kinds of identities can combine in very complex ways in shaping the way people experience the world. So this is sort of the basic idea of intersectionality. I think that you'll find it come out in sharper relief in the activities for this week, particularly as you get further down and think about things like, well, with activity 6B, but also activity 6E, which is a podcast for this week. And so think about those three concepts: inequality, justice, and intersectionality. And keep your mind open to the wide variety of ways that people experience environmental issues in their daily lives, in their communities. And let's keep those ideas in mind as we reflect on what we've read so far this quarter about disasters and about climate change and about public health and species extinctions, all these sorts of things. And then let's try to marshal those together, marshal those concepts together as we start to think about solutions that might aid both diverse people and diverse species and environments and habitats as we try to work towards solutions in the future at a time like it looks like there may be more opportunities to do so, at least in this country, than there have been over the past few years. So think about those concepts, think about connecting the dots among them, and think about connecting the dots between this week and previous weeks so that we can really come to some endpoint that gets us much further along next week when we really start to think about what solutions may be available to us to confront some of these very serious problems that we've been thinking about over the past several weeks. With that, I'm going to wrap up for this week. It's been a short video, but I hope it's been helpful. Please remember that I'm available to you on Tuesday mornings via office hours and would love to continue to see you in there. And then I'll continue to update you as the next couple weeks come regarding the final assignment, makeups, and any other issues that may emerge as we close in on the end of the quarter. Thanks so much, and good luck over the next week with your assignment on environmental justice and inequality.